Hello, back to the Explorer, and you're going to see me this time because we don't need to look at the language in too much detail. However, if you did prefer it like that, please email me because I don't mind doing it like that. I mean, it does hurt my hand after a while, but it's no bother, so just let me know. So I'm going to start chapter 4, which is The River. And I've heard some lovely feedback from you about this book so far. It's a great old book. And actually, when we finish this chapter, we're about 50 pages in, so we've not done badly. And we're going to have a chapter a night going forward. So we'll get this cracked possibly by half term, if not just a little while afterwards. It's worth waiting for because it's a stunning book. Let's get started. It took some time to find leaves wide and strong enough for the roof. The first batch Fred tried tore in his hands. The second turned out to have something in them that made his skin turn red and itchy. But the third tree had fleshy leaves as long as his arm. He and Lilla tore them into strips and then wove them into great squares, which they wedged in and out of the branches of the supporting trunks. Con sat on the grass outside the den, digging a hole in the ground with a twig. Fred crawled into the den and looked up. The sun no longer filtered through 1,000 ant holes. The light inside was dark green, an underwater sunken treasure colour. He left an unexpected surge of triumph roar through him. "It's good," he called. "You can barely see the gaps." He heard Lilla cheer. Fred backed out of the den and stood up too fast. Suddenly his head reeled, colours flashing in front of his eyes, his lungs tied in a double knot. "Are you all right?" asked Lilla. "Fine," he said, more brusquely than he'd intended. Since his pneumonia, he hated being asked if he was all right. He tried to smile. "Thanks," he added. Fred had been sent to Brazil to convalesce with a distant cousin. Convalesce, great word. Have a look that up. I'm interested to see what you find. The cousin's idea of a good time involved more playing bridge in a dark room than Fred had expected. But his father had said it was the only sensible option. "I can't be at home to look after you," he'd said. "The firm needs me." "I can look after myself," Fred wheezed. "That's not possible," his father said gruffly. He had worked longer and longer hours each year, ever since Fred could remember. Fred could not remember his mother's face, except when he was asleep. He'd never seen his father dressed in anything other than a suit, and over time the suit seemed to have seeped into his father's skin. His voice practically wore a tie. "You're treating me like a baby," Fred had said. "Nonsense," his father replied. "Come on, you're a sensible boy." Fred's boarding school report always contained that word. Sensible. An unobtrusive presence in the classroom. Sometimes, when they could clearly think of nothing else that distinguished him from his classmates, they added, "increasingly tall." Fred knew he was none of those things. Or rather, he was tall. Nobody would have argued about that. He grew out of clothes so fast that his ankles were constantly cold. But he was not unobtrusive inside, nor was he sensible. Inside, Fred was hunger and hope and wire. It was just that there had never been a chance to prove it. His father always insisted so unswervingly on clean shoes and unrebellious eyebrows. But Fred's mind was quick with sharp edges. Well, I like that description to describe someone who's sharp. He wanted more from the world than it had yet given. Now he tried to grin at Lilla. "I'm just dehydrated. We need to find something to drink," he said. "You can live for a long time without eating." "No, you absolutely can't," said Max indignantly. "But you can't live for long without water." "Do you think we can drink from the—" Lilla hesitated, searching for the words. "Tiny cesspool?" Fred looked across at the puddle of water. "We could, but I don't think we'd live very long if we did. But we're near the river. We must be," he said. "It was on our left when we clashed," said Lilla eagerly. "Which direction did we run?" said Con. "Well, the sun rises in the east, so facing this way, left is northeast," said Fred. "How does that help if we don't know which direction we ran?" snapped Con. She was pale and there were circles under her eyes, as if someone had pressed a paint-smeared thumb to her face. It doesn't much, admitted Fred, but northeast of here was England. The thump in his chest slowed a little. Northeast led to his bedroom at home, his bookcase, his cricket bat propped up against the wall. It led to his father. Con squared her shoulders as if readying to fight. Are we just going to guess then? I heard, Fred said, that you can follow ants and they'll take you to water. Ants? Said Con. We're going to take direction from ants? Lila stared hard at Con and then at the ground, combing the leaves of her eyes. Do you have a different suggestion? She said. Con sighed and bent to look under a log. The first set of ants was a disappointment. Max found a trail of tiny ones and bent down to stroke them. Look, they're shining. Don't touch, said Lila, snatching him back. Some ants out here are dangerous. These ones? Asked Con, taking a step back. I don't know, that's the problem. The dangerous ones are called bullet ants, but I don't know what they look like. Bullets, presumably, said Con. Not necessarily, said Lila. Dogfish don't look like dogs. I remember being very disappointed. These ones look like ants, said Max. You're still not allowed to touch them, said Lila, so don't try. They walked at a safe distance, all four of them with their chins on their chests, along a snaking line of trees. The ants led them to a large pile of leaves. Oh. Fred nudged the leaves of a stick, just in case there was water underneath. He recoiled. The ants were swarming over the carcass of a bird. It looked like it had once been a vulture. Now, though, it was equal parts bones and smell. This isn't exactly what I was hoping for. You could not, he thought, trust an ant's sense of priorities. What now, then? Asked Con, crossing her arms. Let's try again, said Lila. Maybe those were the wrong kind of ants. It was Lila who found the trail of larger ants, ants with heads as big as ball bearings. They followed the track deep into the woods, Lila leading. Fred watched her. She was small and moved on the edge of her muscles like an animal, a deer or a lemur, as if she heard things other people did not. I can't believe we're trusting ants, said Con. She brushed a cobweb out of her hair and ducked under a branch. Even in fairy stories, it's a wise owl or something. Nobody goes to bloody ants for help. She looked defiantly at Fred as she said the word bloody, and then a thorn caught on the skin above her eyebrow, and she let out a yelp. I hate this place. Fred looked back and found, with a lurch to his stomach, that the clearing had entirely disappeared. Which way is the way back? He said. The green of the forest seemed to thrum around them. Left at that tree that was covered in mushrooms, and then right at the bush with green thorns, said Con. She didn't look at him, didn't see the surprise on his face, which she immediately tried to hide. We should mark a path, he said, so we can find our way back. Fine, said Con. Unless you want to ask the opinion of, I don't know, a passing maggot. Fred tried to grin. Well, maggots are much slower walkers than ants. They'd make terrible guides. She didn't smile back. Fred slipped to the back of the procession. Every 3 or 4 trees, he broke a branch and stuck a leaf on the hinge it made. Con shook her head. That's not going to be any good. You need something bigger. She tore one of the ruffles off her once white blouse and tied it to a tree. There. Right, I'm going to do a second part because it'll be easier to upload to YouTube. Really great, and I like the way it's equal parts action and character development. Brilliant balance from Katherine Rundell here. Really enjoying this story, getting elements of all 4 characters' personalities, and I hope they can find water soon, because Fred's right, the human body can survive for a long time without food, but water much less.